Hello, and thank you for joining Learning English. You currently studying English? Fantastic. Let's practice English together with a compelling story. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share your comments. Let's begin. On the 27th of June, 2025, a significant event unfolded in the Middle East. Fighter jets from Israel conducted an attack on a location within southern Lebanon. This region of Lebanon is situated near the Israeli border. The scale of the attack was considerable. Israeli jets released bombs, while drones also operated over the area. Smoke billowed into the sky near the city of Nabatea, visible from a great distance. This assault was notable because it followed the establishment of a ceasefire agreement. A ceasefire is a mutual understanding to halt all fighting. This particular agreement had been reached in November of 2024. The ceasefire was intended to restore calm to the border region after a period of intense conflict. It offered hope that hostilities would cease and people could resume their lives. In safety, however, on June 27th, that ceasefire was breached. It marked the second occasion in 2025 that Israel had carried out such a major strike on southern Lebanon. The agreement was supposed to have stopped attacks like this. The incident was deeply unsettling for residents near the border. It sparked fear among people in both Lebanon and Israel. It revived old anxieties from previous eras of more widespread war. Many worried that this attack could signal the start of another large-scale war between Israel and Lebanon. They feared the conflict would escalate significantly and expand beyond the immediate border zone. The border area between Israel and Lebanon has a prolonged history of conflict and hardship. It has frequently been a site of fighting and loss. The November 2024 ceasefire had inspired hope for a durable peace. It represented an important move toward ending the preceding violence. But the attack near Nabatea demonstrated that this hope was fragile. The peace accord was not robust enough to fend off renewed violence. The smoke rising over southern Lebanon post-attack served as a stark warning. It communicated to all that the situation remained highly serious and far from peaceful. The international community observed the event intently, waiting to see what would follow. This attack signaled a new, difficult phase in the relationship between Israel and Lebanon. It proved that violating the ceasefire could lead to severe consequences, worsening the situation for everyone involved. It cast doubt on whether genuine, lasting peace was achievable in the region after so much turmoil. June 27, 2025, became a day when the specter of war returned to southern Lebanon. A typical day comes to an end. On June 27th, life near the city was proceeding quietly. As on any normal day, then, in an instant, everything changed. Extremely loud sounds erupted. Powerful explosions rocked the earth. People were terrified. The strikes hit buildings throughout the vicinity. Homes were damaged. Some structures collapsed entirely. Dust and smoke permeated the air, making it difficult for people to see or breathe. Inside one of the buildings, a civilian woman was in her apartment. The strike hit her residence, and she was killed. She was not a combatant. She was simply an individual in her own home. It was a tragic loss. Numerous other people were injured. Approximately 20 people sustained injuries in the blasts. Some were hurt severely and required extensive medical attention. They were transported to nearby hospitals. Eyewitnesses saw and heard the horrific events. They described the explosions as massive. The ground trembled beneath their feet. For some, it was a reminder of difficult periods in the past. After the loud noises ceased, people began to assess their surroundings. They saw the destruction. Streets were littered with debris from shattered buildings. People wept while searching for their family members and neighbors. Rescue crews arrived promptly to provide aid. They worked diligently in the damaged zones. They began sifting through the rubble the fragments of fallen structures. They were hoping to find survivors trapped beneath the stone and wood. The attack left behind widespread destruction and fear. A normal day had transformed into a day of sorrow and hardship for many in the region. The city and its inhabitants felt the immense impact of the attack. It highlighted the human price of violent conflict. Following the attack, Israel provided its rationale. The Israeli military said its aircraft had struck a covert facility used by Hezbollah. This location was said to be underground. They alleged that Hezbollah was storing important assets there, such as rockets. Israel stated its objective was to diminish Hezbollah's weapons capabilities. They aimed to disrupt Hezbollah's preparations for renewed conflict. Israel also leveled a serious accusation against Hezbollah, stating that the group frequently places weapons and military assets in residential areas. This practice, Israel argued, makes these locations extremely hazardous for ordinary civilians. An Israeli army official went so far as to claim the collapsed building was not a direct target. He alleged that a Hezbollah rocket stored inside the building had detonated as a result of the Israeli strike. The Israeli military. It attempted to avoid densely populated areas during its operations. They maintained the attacks were essential for Israel's protection. They contended that these actions help enforce the terms of the ceasefire agreement. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the situation, stating that Israel must act to preempt future threats. Israel believes that preventing Hezbollah from amassing a large arsenal is vital for the nation's security. This is particularly true amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza and tensions with Iran. Israeli leaders affirmed they could not permit a return to the situation that existed before October 2023. They view these strikes as necessary measures. Lebanon responded with outrage to the attacks. The nation's leaders vehemently condemned Israel's actions. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun declared the strikes a violation of Lebanon's sovereignty and international law, called them illegal. The Prime Minister Nawaf Salam also stated the attacks violated the ceasefire agreement established in November 2024. He appealed to the international community for assistance, urging other nations to intervene and halt the aggression. Hezbollah, the Lebanese group at the center of the conflict, remained largely silent in public immediately after the strikes. However, their allies in the government were vocal. They protested, accusing Israel of perpetual aggression and of consistently breaking the rules. The Lebanese army, which participates in monitoring the ceasefire, issued a warning. They indicated that if Israeli attacks continued, Lebanon might cease cooperation with the body overseeing the peace accord. Lebanese officials also highlighted other ongoing issues. They noted that Israel still maintained soldiers at 5 posts within Lebanese territory, despite an agreement to withdraw. They also reported that Israel had been conducting aerial raids almost daily since November 2024. Many in Lebanon felt their country was being attacked without justification. They believed Israel was acting with impunity in Lebanon's airspace and on its land. They viewed the attacks as a grave threat to Lebanon's security and sovereignty. The response from Lebanon was unequivocal. They rejected the violence and called upon the world for help. In November of 2024, Israel and Hezbollah reached a significant agreement. It was termed a ceasefire, a pledge to end the fighting along the sea. Lebanon-Israel border. The concept was straightforward. It was meant to provide security to the area following many months of hostilities. The deal contained specific rules for each party to adhere to. Hezbollah committed to withdrawing its fighters and armaments from the border zone in southern Lebanon, relocating to an area south of the Litani River. In exchange, Israel pledged to remove all of its troops from the military positions it occupied on Lebanese soil. Crucially, both Israel and Hezbollah consented to cease all cross-border rocket fire, shelling, and bombing. Regrettably, however, this vital promise was not fully honored by either side. The ceasefire agreement was breached on numerous occasions, resulting in persistent violence. According to reports from Lebanon and international monitors, there were many violations, particularly by Israel. Israel failed to withdraw all its soldiers from its positions inside Lebanon by the agreed-upon deadline. They maintained several military posts, which Lebanon considered an occupation. More troubling for residents near the border, Israeli warplanes and drones continued their flights over Lebanon on an almost daily basis. They frequently bombed sites in southern Lebanon. Lebanese officials described these attacks as severe breaches of the ceasefire pledge, while Israel claimed it was striking military targets. People in the villages lived in constant fear. They did not feel secure in their own homes, since the agreement was signed in November 2024. A state of genuine, quiet peace never fully materialized for everyone. The aerial attacks persisted regularly. News reports from various groups monitoring the violence have published a tragic count of fatalities in Lebanon resulting from these continuous attacks. They indicate that hundreds of Lebanese individuals have lost their lives in the months following the promise of peace. Some tallies cite over 200 deaths, with many hundreds more wounded. This demonstrates that the agreement failed to protect the border population as intended. It did not deliver the safety they had so desperately wished for. The frequent violation of the promise, with daily infractions and deaths, made the situation extremely perilous. Each subsequent attack, such as the major one on June 27th, proved the ceasefire was too weak to halt the violence entirely. This failure to uphold the promise has made the prospect of lasting peace seem remote and has sustained a climate of fear. In the region, the history between Israel and Lebanon is long and fraught with conflict. They have engaged in numerous wars over many years. This fighting extends back several decades. The land along their shared border has witnessed immense trouble and sorrow. A pivotal moment occurred in the year 1982. In that year, the Israeli army launched a major invasion of Lebanon. Their objective was to combat groups that were attacking Israel from Lebanese territory. This invasion profoundly impacted Lebanon. It spurred significant changes and the formation of new factions. One of the most prominent groups to emerge around this time was Hezbollah. The name Hezbollah means Party of God in Arabic. Hezbollah was founded by members of Lebanon's Shia Muslim community. Their primary initial objective was to resist the Israeli soldiers occupying parts of Lebanon. Hezbollah received substantial aid from the nation of Iran. Iran provided funds, weaponry, and training for its militants. Over time, Hezbollah evolved beyond a mere fighting force. They established schools, hospitals, and other social services. For the Lebanese population, this strategy helped them garner strong support from many citizens. Hezbollah also transformed into a political entity. Today they hold seats in the Lebanese government and parliament. However, they have retained their militants and their arsenal. Confronting Israel has remained a core component of their identity. In the year 2000, Israel withdrew all of its soldiers from southern Lebanon. Hezbollah regarded this as a victory achieved through years of resistance. But the peace was short-lived. The year 2006, another major war erupted between Israel and Hezbollah. This conflict was incredibly intense, lasting approximately 34 days. Many cities and villages in Lebanon suffered heavy damage. Thousands of buildings were either destroyed or damaged. Tragically, many people lost their lives in this war, the majority of whom were Lebanese civilians. Following the 2006 war, a ceasefire was declared to stop the fighting, yet the underlying issues remained unresolved. Minor skirmishes and tensions persisted in the border region throughout the subsequent years. This long history of conflict from 1982-2006, the years in between, is crucial for understanding the current circumstances. People in both Israel and Lebanon carry the memory of these wars. They remember the suffering and the loss. Understanding Hezbollah's origins, its ties to Iran, and its motivations for fighting Israel is key to explaining the present dangers. The past deepens the problems of today, making them difficult to solve. It shows that achieving a durable peace between these two adversaries is an immense challenge. The long and tragic history of fighting influences every event that now occurs near the border, even when agreements to cease hostilities are in place. The old problems and deep-seated mistrust persist. The hostilities near the Israel-Lebanon border were a grave issue. However, they were also a component of a much larger dynamic in the Middle East. The situation was linked to the ongoing war in Gaza. It was also tied to the contentious relationship between Israel and Iran. These were like interconnected pieces in a vast and perilous game. Many nations observed the border clashes with concern. Powerful countries, including the USA and France, were actively trying to mediate. They had been instrumental in brokering the November 2024 ceasefire agreement. They urged both parties to halt the fighting and adhere to the established rules. The United Nations also had peacekeepers stationed near the border, attempting to maintain calm. They recognized the extreme tension in the situation. Experts feared that the limited clashes on the border could escalate. It was akin to a small spark with the potential to ignite a massive blaze. If the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah were to become a full-blown war, it could readily draw in other nations. Iran is a supporter of Hezbollah, while the USA is a staunch ally of Israel. A war in this area could spread rapidly, causing harm to many more people across the region. The leaders of the USA and France spoke frequently about this danger. They sought to avert a broader conflict. They applied pressure on both Israel and Lebanon to honor the agreement and cease the violence. But the circumstances were exceedingly difficult. With the war in Gaza continuing and tensions between Israel and Iran at a high point, the border region was an exceptionally dangerous flashpoint. The small-scale attacks and retaliations felt like steps drawing ever closer to a much larger crisis that no one wanted. What comes next? The situation between Israel and Lebanon is extremely difficult. The ceasefire agreement from last year is no longer functioning effectively. Attacks are recurring in the border region. Experts who analyze the region are concerned. They believe the conflict could easily intensify. This is a very precarious time for all residents, particularly those in southern Lebanon. Israel maintains its actions are to ensure the safety of its citizens. It feels compelled to prevent groups like Hezbollah from possessing weapons near its border. Israel asserts that its strikes are aimed at these threats. Conversely, Lebanon feels it is bearing an unjust burden from these actions. Its leaders accuse Israel of frequently violating the ceasefire rules with these attacks. Many people are injured, and homes and buildings are destroyed. Lebanon perceives itself as a victim in this dynamic. With its territory under assault, the future for the people living near the border is unclear. No one knows if the delicate peace can be restored. The world is watching intently to see what will unfold. Will tranquility return, or will a new, larger war commence? Many hope that influential nations like the United States and France can help quell the violence. These countries helped facilitate the ceasefire agreement. They are calling on both sides to abide by the rules. This entails fighters and weapons being moved away from the border. It also requires Israeli soldiers to vacate posts inside Lebanon. However, fixing the situation is hard. The ceasefire lacked clear penalties for violations. Consequently, attacks persist on an almost nightly basis. Some residents of southern Lebanon feel their own government is unable to provide full protection from these strikes. This creates a very difficult and uncertain existence, a fear for the safety of their homes. This sense of vulnerability might lead them to support groups willing to retaliate against Israel. Some analysts believe that while Hezbollah lost its top leader, it still possesses a large number of rockets and drones. But they also suggest the group may not desire a major war at this moment, as it was also weakened during the past year of fighting. The conflict in Gaza and the friction between Israel and Iran heighten the risk. What begins as a minor border skirmish could swiftly escalate into a much larger conflict involving multiple countries in the region. Leaders in both Beirut and Israel state they do not want an allowed war. But experts caution that even a small miscalculation, like a single rocket launched or one drone strike, could provoke a massive response and restart everything. It is challenging to find solutions acceptable to both sides to break this cycle of violence. The situation remains extremely tense and unpredictable. The future is uncertain for those living near the border. Do you believe international pressure can break the cycle of violence on the Israel-Lebanon border? Or is a larger conflict unavoidable? Hey, just one moment before you leave. If you picked up something new today, please show your support by liking this video, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing to our channel. It takes just a second, but it truly helps us to produce even more effective English videos for you. Your support is invaluable. Thank you.